Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time you are listening to this podcast. My name's Chris. I'm the host of the CCA California podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm very grateful for you joining us this afternoon. Today we've got a very special guest, one of my personal favorite people, Mr. Seth Mostero from Cope's Tackle and Rod Shop up in Bakersfield, California. We'll get to Seth in a little bit, but first, guys, don't forget, visit us on our website, ccacalifornia.org. Once again, that's ccacalifornia.org. You can basically sign up as a member, do all kinds of good stuff on our website. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all that good stuff. Also on YouTube as well, where we've actually started posting the podcast episodes on. So all good stuff. But without further ado, Seth, good to see you, man. How are you?
Good, Chris. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. It's always, people say a whole bunch of things about Bakersfield, but I truly enjoy coming up here for sure.
Yeah, we love it here, man. Love it here. It's kind of a hidden gem up here. So
yeah, for sure, man. What have you been up to lately? What's the full scoop up in this neck of the woods?
Oh, we're full speed, man. We got a gas pedal down. We're just getting ready for next year. So it's been obviously 2020, 2021 was crazy with fishing and COVID and all the excitement there, and so just getting ready for 2022, hoping it's just as crazy. So.
Yeah, we were just talking before we came on here, and it's almost like there's really no slow time of the year, busy time of year. It's just full speed year round.
Yeah, for sure. It's even it's kind of thrown the weekly calendar out. So we're busy during the week now, when we used to be weekends only, and we'd be slow during the week. So it's kind of a whole different deal. The weekly calendar screwed up, monthly, yearly, everything. So
yeah, for sure, man. And especially running Copes, that's got to be super busy as well. Being one of the best, if not the best, tackle store in Bakersfield.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. But yeah, it's definitely been a whirlwind, man. So it's good, all for the good, though.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, let's kind of get back into your background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. How'd you end up at Copes?
So I was born in Southern California, in Los Angeles. Grew up in Orange County. Just fished all my life for as long as I can remember. And with that, I ended up in all the local tackle stores down there, and got out of high school. I ended up working at the Longfin down in Orange. So obviously one of Orange County's premier tackle shops, Southern California's premier tackle shops, and so anyway, that led to. I ended up in college and graduating college and ended up working for Big Rock Sports as a big distributor in the fishing tackle industry.
Nice.
And from there ended up, Copes was one of my customers when it was just getting started out, and ended up leaving Big Rock and getting up here in 2018, and been here ever since. So
nice.
Pretty exciting.
How old is Copes Tackle?
Copes is 6 years old now.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Yep.
Pretty established in the community. I mean, every time I come up here, there's always, everyone's got a great attitude. Everyone wants to help you out. All the guys that you've hired and all that stuff. Really great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I know down in Southern California, when I was growing up, obviously Copes wasn't around, and just started hearing about it right before I came up here. And I think now it's kind of an established tackle store in California, and it's, on the map. So it's a good place to be.
Absolutely. Well, since we're on Copes, tell us a little bit about the store, man. I know you carry a ton of product when it comes to all your different manufacturers and all that stuff. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. We're kind of 50-50 in being a freshwater and saltwater store. We do, majority freshwater in the winter, and when rockfish season's closed, as being in the Central Valley, right across from the Central Coast. But come summertime, we're about 50-50, maybe even more so saltwater than freshwater, which surprises a lot of people. But we do it all. We do everything from bluegill to marlin, set you up for anything, big bluefin, trout, bass, pretty much anything, rockfish. And we kind of try to get even more involved in that. We've got a huge clothing room in the back of the shop, which is kind of a big deal. Like as fishing's kind of changing to a lifestyle, everyone's wearing fishing clothing and got foul weather gear and all that good stuff. And probably most exciting recently is we're adding in Hobie kayaks. We just got our first delivery yesterday, so that's a whole another avenue for us, bringing Hobie kayaks to Central Valley. There's no dealers here now, so we'll be the first ones, and something we're really excited about. So
Excellent, excellent, man. Well, so let's talk a little bit about that. So the dynamic here in Bakersfield, it's a little bit interesting where you're obviously not on a coastline, but it seems, you're a one-stop shop for anything, saltwater, freshwater up here in town. It's interesting where, to have one spot where you can go do both, and then obviously the guys that are typically shopping at your store, they're doing all kinds of stuff too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have, one morning you might have somebody come in going, pan fishing, crappie fishing up at Lake Isabella, and then we got the next guys going striper fishing at the aqueduct, and we get guys running down to San Diego going tuna fishing. We even get some salmon business from up north. So we really do it all. A lot of rock fishing. Again, that's probably the closest thing to us being about 2 hours away. Mm-hmm. So, but there's a lot of great local fishing, and there's a lot within 2 hours. We're kind of 2 hours from everything. So
awesome. I've got to ask, personally, do you enjoy saltwater fishing a little bit more than freshwater, or vice versa? Or what's your take?
I'm kind of split, man. I'm up for fishing anywhere, kind of for anything. I've kind of started dabbling more in the fly fishing even lately.
Oh, really?
So, but yeah, typically 50-50 bass and tuna fishing usually. Nice.
Where are you typically fishing up here freshwater-wise?
So for like largemouth spotted bass, you've got Nacimiento is pretty close. I love Lake Isabella. It's a super tough lake, but real big fish in there. Pyramid, Castaics are both really close. And then we have, we have bass in the Kern River, believe it or not. Can't really put a boat on it. There's a few spots you could, but real small boat. But off the bank, there's smallmouth bass in the river and even largemouth down through the valley. And then the aqueduct, there's bass. So there's a lot of water around people don't know about, or, it's kind of under the radar. So
I was going to say, being in the Central Valley, there's quite a bit of water that you guys have access to up here. It's interesting.
Definitely. Lots of different types of water too. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's almost like you have a little bit of everything in the Central Valley up here. That's great. So as far as manufacturers go and tackle wise and all that stuff, you pretty much carry darn near everyone, right?
Yeah, we've pretty much got it all. Anything you could find in Southern California, we've got here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Shimano, Daiwa, Kuma, Avid, Accurate, pretty much everything in the reels and rods, and then just all your typical tackle manufacturers. So the only thing that you probably won't find too much of here that you might find down in San Diego, Orange County area is some of the inshore tackle for like calico bass and that kind of stuff. We're a little light on just because our inshore up this way is more of your rockfish stuff. We have shallow water rockfish that you don't have in Southern California. So that's kind of our calico bass game up this way.
Yeah, and I've noticed throughout the years coming up here and visiting you and all that, it's almost like there's not this isn't a good or bad thing, but it's like there's almost a new display or there's something new going on at the shop all the time. You just kind of said it, and we'll touch on it a little bit later, but you just started offering Hobie kayaks, which have never been in Copes before, I don't think, right?
No, we've never had kayaks at all, and Hobie's obviously the best of the best in the kayak game. So, but yeah, we try to keep our foot on the gas all the time, keep it exciting, keep it new. There's just so much new every year in the fishing tackle industry, and we try to put as much as we can under our small roof. So.
For sure. And with, if you've never been to Copes in Bakersfield, it's worth a trip for sure. But also, to give you a sense, they've got a whole tackle room up front where they've got pretty much everything. And then they have a whole back section that's all, primarily, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all closed too.
Correct. Yeah, we have a crazy selection of clothes. Obviously, our weather's a little crazier up this way than you get down in Southern California, but our selection of foul weather gear I'd put up against anybody's down south, and just crazy amount of boots, clothing, apparel, any kind of headwear, hats. We've got kind of everything, so it's pretty cool. I don't have to go shop anywhere, man. I buy all my clothes right here at Copes. So
yeah, I think you're putting a brand new twist on one-stop shop for sure. There's also a phrase that you go by up here: for fishermen by fishermen, which is actually really interesting. And, I've met a couple guys, I've almost met all your guys that work in the shop there, and they're typically, and we've had this conversation before, where in order for them to become experts at what they do, what they're selling in your shop, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you actually send your employees to go out fish on their time off.
Yeah, definitely. Being in Bakersfield, it's not super inexpensive to go out fishing. It takes a 2-hour trip wherever you're going, so you got to add that to your regular expenses of living right there on the water. So you're going tuna fishing or something. So yeah, definitely trying to get guys out on the water and pulling on fish and experience different types of fishing is key to it. So, but our biggest thing is just treating the fishermen right and being the fishermen that we're trying to help. So.
Yeah, and obviously sending your guys off to go fishing, it also is giving them inside knowledge into what you sell out here too.
For sure, yeah.
That's awesome.
Experience.
So we've talked about it before, but Bakersfield, it's kind of a unique dynamic where, in terms of the saltwater at least, you've got a whole bunch of freshwater lakes all around here and all that stuff. So that's fine. But also when it comes to saltwater, you just said it before, it's a 2-hour drive no matter where you want to go, whether that's Oxnard, whether that's Morro Bay. San Diego's a little bit farther away, but still, you have to drive down there. It seems to me where most of your customers, they're pretty much gearing up throughout the whole week and then taking off for the weekend. Would you say that that's correct?
Definitely. Yeah, if you're going to take the 2-hour drive, it's typically longer than a day trip, so you're going on an overnight boat or staying somewhere overnight. So obviously it's pretty warm up here in the summer. We have about 90 to 100 plus days over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
So it's real warm in the summer and dry, and so a lot of our customers are working all week here, and then they head out of town for the weekend back to the coast and some cooler weather. So for sure it's a big deal come summertime, and that's why we're a lot more saltwater based in the summer.
Yeah. And it's so much more convenient to gear up before you even make that long drive, where all you literally have to do is park the car, show up, and get on the boat or wherever you're going to go fishing.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially in today's day and age, you don't know what store is going to have what, and supply chain issues and everything. If you can get it here local in town before you leave, it's probably your best bet.
So that brings up a good point. When it comes to, this isn't new in 2020 and 2021, and more so in 2022, we're facing a lot of, shortages, I guess, in terms of product and all that stuff. I mean, I just walked in here a couple hours ago, and you guys, I mean, it's almost like there's really no shortage of anything. You've got it all almost.
Yeah, we try to keep as much as possible in stock and buy it up as soon as we find it. So we keep our inventory super high for that reason. Just you never know when you're going to be able to get what. So I think you and I are sitting back here in the office right now. We have boxes stacked a couple feet over our head, pretty much all around. There's not much room to move. Just product that's coming in the door. Right now it's all Hobie accessories and whatnot. But yeah, we just try to keep it flowing, keep it full, and try to, have everything everybody wants all the time. So
yeah, which is obviously great. It's great business to have products what your customers need and all that stuff. And we can talk a whole bunch about that. But the reason why we're actually up here at Co-op's Tackle is because tonight, which obviously will be, I guess, last week for you guys listening at the release of this podcast, we're here for a lobster seminar, which we gave one, I want to say maybe like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. Our executive director, Wayne Cotto, he's giving a lobster seminar, which is sponsored by Promar and Ahi USA, which is great. But tonight it's going to be really, really fun, wouldn't you think?
I'm super excited about it. So I'm getting all kinds of comments all the time. There's no lobster in Bakersfield, which we all know unless it's on your plate already. But yeah, we have quite a few customers that go hooping. It's not the easiest thing to just go buy hoop nets and go out there and do it. There's a lot of steps to it. There's a lot of rules and regulations. And Wayne gave this presentation probably right before COVID hit, I'd say, or maybe right at the start. And it's super informative. If you guys get the opportunity to jump in and watch one of them, it's great, because I feel like I hadn't been hooping before at the time, and I learned a ton right off the bat. So
yeah,
and a ton of information to let our pass on to our customers who don't make it tonight. So
yeah, and it's well attended too. I mean, there's quite a bit of people who came last year. I can only imagine what the turnout's going to be tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And anybody that's been in, looking at lobster gear, wanting to start hooping, I tell them, hey, give it a week, give it a couple weeks, and wait till Wayne gets up here and really let him go over every little detail. So excited about it. Yeah,
and lobstering is one of those things where, in my opinion, truth be told, I've actually never been hooping before. Always wanted to try it, never really gotten around to doing it. But hooping for lobster in Southern California, it seems like one of those things where you either have to know somebody who knows what they're doing, or it's very intimidating to go out and do it for yourself for the first time, because there's so many different ways where you can either get tripped up or just screw up or break rules or whatnot. Having these seminars, and Promar is a big part of those too, where they sponsor a couple seminars here and there in the past for CCA, but really doing a good job in getting the word out. For sure.
For sure. Yeah, you throw that nighttime into anything, it already makes it twice as hard. So
yeah,
the lobster's crawling at night. It's doing something in the dark is definitely tough.
Yeah, good point. So it's no secret, Copes has been a huge part of CCA. We just opened up our Bakersfield chapter last year. It's pretty amazing, to be honest. I mean, we opened up that chapter in April, I believe. We met right back there, up at Copes. And we started our own chapter, and within, I'd say, 7 months or so, we ended up pulling off our very first banquet, and Copes was a big part of that one too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been great. CCA is awesome, obviously fighting for our rights, advocating for the fishermen, and it's been huge for us. It's good. Again, we're 2 hours from the coast, and you guys are doing it for the saltwater fishermen, obviously, but there's a ton of them here, and their voice matters too. So it's been great.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you kind of said it there, where we talked about it last week, where in the Inland Empire, we have so many different anglers, saltwater anglers out there, where they're kind of in the same boat as you guys, where they're still at least an hour and a half away from the coast, but there's so many of them. It's probably the same story for up here in Bakersfield.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, the reason why I say Copes has been a huge part, Copes actually sponsored the banquet last year and donated our venue for the banquet. So thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And I think for 2022, we're looking at another stellar year, and with a lot of different events. And our chapter president is Billy Whitted, who I know comes in here quite a bit, from what I hear, and it's going to be a good year for sure.
Yeah, can't wait. We got a lot of events on the agenda, and not just CCA events, but events that CCA is attending, and membership drives and whatnot. So it's going to be another busy year, man, but it should be real good.
Well, speaking of events, since we brought it up, I know Copes does a ton of events throughout the year. It goes to say, back in 2020, just to kind of give credit where it's due to you guys, back in 2020, we were all set up for that show, the Central Valley Sportsmen show, at the Kern County Fairgrounds, and that was literally right as COVID was hitting. And sure enough, they ended up calling off the show, and I mean, you didn't even blink an eye before offering up your parking lot. All of us with booths at that show and all that stuff, you basically just said, come on over, and we made a weekend out of it, that's for sure.
Yeah, we had a great time, man. You guys all came up and, made the trip and brought all the stuff along with you, and all the manufacturers brought their products, the customers, and all the Central Valley Sportsman's show customers, wanted to see it. They didn't want to sit at home on the couch, so we brought it over here to the parking lot, and it ended up a stellar event. So
yeah,
super cool.
And I think it turned into another event last year because the show never went on too.
Yeah, for sure. We did the same thing again. We kind of just moved the show to the parking lot just because you guys, it's March is showtime, so everyone's ready for it and wants to see it, and we're gonna make it work whether they let us do it at the fairgrounds or not. So
yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of the show, that show is coming back this year. It's on the books. It's scheduled. I know you're going to be there. We're going to be there. Our Kern County chapter is going to be there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that show is March 11th to the 13th.
Yes, sir. March 11th through the 13th at the fairgrounds. So it's a Central Valley Sportsman's Boat and RV show. It's one of our biggest events of the year between that and Fishapalooza. We have a massive booth in the fishing hall this year. There's actually going to be a hunting hall as well, which is pretty exciting. And there'll be guns and ammo for sale, which is a pretty unique thing. So I know a lot of fishermen like their guns and their ammo. It's a big thing in Bakersfield, so that'll be huge. But we bring out rods, reels, clothing. We'll have kayaks there this year. We'll have Hobie out there. We have a huge bass bin with seminars going on. People will be fishing in the bass bin. I mean, it's a really good time, and it's not just for the fishermen, their families, and everything else. There's live music, drinks, all kinds of stuff going on. So really cool.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always been a pleasure doing that show, and it used to be the Bakersfield Fred Hall show years ago, and Mike Hatcher and his team, they've done a really great job at promoting that show and really growing that whole show to what it is today, which is a really great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Hatch does a great job, and tons of volunteers involved, and get all the boats and RV dealerships out there. It's a good time. So if you haven't been, definitely make the trip. It's worth it. We're only a couple hours away from most of you guys. So
absolutely, for sure. So speaking of events or doing more events, I know Copes does a ton of events throughout the year. Want to do the rundown on what you got going on for 2022?
Yeah, so we're just kind of getting our schedule together as far as exact dates, but we have, our regular schedule of events. We always do Fishapalooza in the spring. That's kind of been screwed up through the whole COVID thing with the ups and downs of that and what we're allowed to do and when. And so it'll return to the spring again this year. We don't have an exact date nailed down yet, but that's a huge one for us, along with the boat and RV show. But other than that, we tried something new this year where we're actually stocking our own trout in the lakes. We've had a little bit of issues getting trout here in the Central Valley in a few of the park lakes that used to be stocked all the time. Kind of goes in waves. I know last year we got a ton at the park lakes, and then it seems like this year it's down in Orange County. It's getting quite a few trout this year in LA, and I don't know how they figure that out or what's going on with the hatcheries or what, but this year it was a little light on the Central Valley, so we went out and contacted Calaveras, and we been taking donations through the shop from customers as they're ringing up, and then we're matching those donations to throw a bunch of big trout, both rainbow and lightning trout in Riverwalk Park this year. So we're going to be doing that this week, actually, believe it or not.
Wow.
Which is a huge deal, and again, it just goes back to giving back to the fishermen. For fishermen by fishermen, and we want those trout there for everybody to catch and enjoy. So
yeah, and it kind of goes to show, we've talked about at length about how generous our own industry, our own community, no matter where you are, is super generous. And we kind of said way back when, where fishermen are really the true conservationists. And that's actually a perfect example where, the fishermen, on top of buying all their gear and their licenses and all that stuff here in California, they're putting even more money into stocking the lakes, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's super cool, and we didn't think we'd get the response we did. We're obviously matching it, but whether the people donate it or not, we're going to stock the fish at least in some amount. So it was really cool that people stepped up and also helped to donate and make it more possible. So hopefully next year we can hoping to get some more like corporate sponsors on board from some manufacturers and stuff, and even get more stocking. So we'll see where it'll go.
So when it comes to stocking fish, I bet there's a lot that goes into that whole aspect, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Finding fish is a huge deal. Obviously, we have state hatcheries through Fish and Wildlife, and they come up with so many trout every year through the fishing license money and whatnot. But to buy them from a private hatchery is extremely expensive. They got to feed them, and water obviously is something we need super bad in California, more of. So
yeah.
It's an expensive feat, but got her done. So super excited about it.
Well, you guys did that back in last year, right?
We stocked trout at the beginning of this year, I believe, for the first time.
Oh, okay.
So we also have, some other local events. Obviously, the Buena Vista Trout Derby is right around Thanksgiving every year, and they stock trout in Buena Vista. And then we have actually next weekend at Riverwalk is the Bakersfield Firefighters Trout Derby, which is a really cool thing. It's for the Firefighters Relief Foundation. It's a fundraiser. So it's $20 to enter, and some of that goes back to prizes and whatnot. I think the lowest tag trout number trout that's caught wins $1,000, which is super cool and brings a ton of people out. But the important part is all that money is going to the Relief Foundation for people affected by fires here in Kern County. So that's super cool.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but they were part of our banquet last year, right? I thought that sounds familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. The firefighters in town here have been great. They're all law enforcement as well too, but they're huge supporters of Copes, and they work with with us on a lot of the events. A lot of them are the CCA members that help out with CCA here. And a lot of them are the guys from the Boat and RV show too. So it's just Bakersfield's a small community. So and it's kind of tight knit. Everyone's helping each other. So
excellent.
Good deal.
That's really good to hear, man. So what else is new for 2022? What else do you have going on?
As far
I know
there's quite a bit. We touched on quite a bit of it. We do have we started a bass tournament last year, customer appreciation bass tournament, which was super cool. We have our regular bass clubs in town that run tournaments, once a month. But we did, we wanted to do something additional that was like just giving back more when they wasn't collecting any money, just as total customer appreciation deal. So we did that at Lake Nacimiento last May, I believe was the day. There's so many dates on the calendar, I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but
you're starting to sound like me now.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a bass team tournament. So our guys with the bass boats and stuff get out there and see who can catch the largest 5-fish bag. And then we gave away, I think, $1,000 gift cards, Daiwa and Akuma and Pure Fishing, and quite a few companies stepped up with some really big donations for that, and reels and rods and hats and all kinds of cool giveaways. So that's something we're planning to do again this year. Again, we're still hammering out a date and getting permits from Fish and Game to make that happen. But that'll be another cool one. I believe CCA, we're going to try to do a golf tournament. I think this year is our chapter banquet. Possibly, we kind of
we'll see.
Still on the fence about it, but
yeah. I know. We just had our first meeting, I think last week or something like that. You're too busy getting engaged and all that stuff in Hawaii, but that's okay.
Yep.
Congratulations, by the way.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Yep. I don't know if you wanted to announce that, but sorry.
It's public information, man. It's all right.
So Copes obviously is here in Bakersfield. You guys do a ton for the community, and the whole community seems to be at Copes as well. For us that live outside of Bakersfield, there's still different ways to get involved with Copes, right? Through, I think you guys sponsor a couple trips down south too, and, we haven't even talked about your online store too.
Yeah, absolutely. We started the online store last year, so, anybody anywhere can shop from us. The majority of our products, $50 or over, is free shipping. So that's really cool. And I know a lot of businesses are moving up to a higher number, but let's grow that online business. We're trying to keep it at a low amount and, get that stuff out. And I know a lot of people in Los Angeles have been shopping with Copes, so that's cool.
Nice.
But we do tuna charters every year out of San Diego. We don't have any on the map yet. I know we do have a white sea bass charter on the Pride, which is just Sean Roberts down there just purchased that. He was running the Fortune there for a while, so he's one we've done charters with in the past on the Fortune. So we're moving some of that white sea bass stuff to the Pride this year out of 22nd Street Landing. Should be pretty exciting. Sean's
a good dude.
Yeah, he's great.
Awesome. Yeah, we just had him on the podcast, I think 2 weeks ago.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Really good, really knowledgeable, and it sounds like he's really pumped up and fired up for this year.
Yeah,
being a new boat owner.
Absolutely, man. He's always super energetic and wants to catch fish. So I'm super excited to get on the Pride and take part in that operation.
Fishy dude too, really fishy dude. So we've talked about quite a bit already, but one thing that we really haven't touched on, or touched a little bit but haven't gone into detail, are these brand new Hobie kayaks that are right behind me. You guys just recently became a dealer, obviously started carrying the Hobie kayaks, and I know you guys, you literally have guys coming over right now trying to set up the Hobie kayaks because you just picked them up, yesterday?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was down in Oceanside yesterday and picked them up, left here before 4 a.m. to get down there before traffic and pick them up and get them back here to Bakersfield with hopes to set them up last night. But I didn't, I underestimated how many and how big they were. So some of these things are like the Pro Angler 14s, like like an aluminum boat. We try to stick 11 of those suckers in our store. It's there's not too much room left. So, but yeah, it's something we're super excited about. We work with Heroes on the Water, which again is another event, but they take wounded veterans and their families fishing off the coast. And I guess it's just veterans. They don't have to be wounded veterans, but they get them out on the water and let them experience fishing. It's 100% free for the veterans. So that's something we sponsor. And it's all kayak fishing. which is something totally different. I'm scared to jump in the ocean on a kayak personally. I just don't like sharks. So I want to be in the boat, my feet out of the water.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's not something I'm planning on doing, but Heroes on the Water does it quite a bit out of Ventura and some other spots. So Zach Clift, who's the director of the Heroes on the Water chapter for the Central Coast, actually works at the shop, and so he's a huge kayak fisherman, has a Hobie. So he's been telling us kayaks for a long time, and we got this opportunity to bring the Hobies in and you know, kind of participate in that community some more, which is growing hugely. So yeah, we're super excited. I'm going to learn a ton. I don't know a whole lot about kayak fishing. I've done it once or twice. I fished the Heroes on the Water bass tournament at Nacimiento last year from a Hobie, and I mean, it's definitely a whole new experience and very exciting. So
okay, so since you brought it up, well, I mean, because I'm assuming before that you really never fished off a kayak before. You know, from a beginner's perspective, how was it? Like, what was it like? Was it kind of weird at first, or did you ever get used to it, or what was the deal?
Yeah, so growing up down in like Orange County in LA, I did do a little bit of kayak fishing as a kid, but in like, you know, your typical $200 paddle kayak, and
Right.
as you're not hands free, you got a paddle in the way, so you're kind of just paddling until you get where you want to fish, and then you end up drifting around and, you know, trying to make it work. And it was a miserable experience back then. I was tired, and it was tough with that paddle style board, or with the paddle style kayak. So anyway, that was kind of my experience with kayak fishing. I didn't like it. I was like, that's terrible, not a good time. But then last year when I did the Heroes on the Water event and got in a Hobie with, you know, the pedal drive system and your hands free, it's amazing. It's like a small boat. You can even stand up in them, which is astounding.
Yeah.
Bass fishing, you know, there's rails, and they've got live wells for them now, and rod holders, and these tackle boxes with, you know, rod holders built into them. They're an amazing deal, and people are throwing fish finders on them, trolling motors. It's not like kayak fishing when I was a kid, so it's a whole new sport, and it's affordable. You can throw it in the back of the truck. You can shoot, if you have two of them in the back of your truck, you can jump in the carpool lane. You don't even have a trailer, so it's a super accessible form of fishing. Really perfect for us when we're 2 hours from a lot of the bodies of water everyone likes to fish. You know.
You know, I was just about to say, you know, if you look at some of these kayaks that people have outfitted and all that with the electronics and, you know, the motors and live wells and all that stuff, it's actually really impressive. It really is on what you know, what people can put on these kayaks nowadays, but also, you know, what people come up with as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We got 3 in the store right now. These Pro Angler 14s that are bigger than a lot of aluminum boats that I've fished off of, and you can stand up and do everything you can, more than you can on an aluminum boat. So it's really amazing, and it's just come a long way, you know, and technology is getting cheaper. The electronics are getting less expensive for the technology that they have, and smaller. So it's perfect for kayak fishing. Really makes it easy. So.
For sure. I've gotten a chance to meet Zach a couple times. He knows what he's doing for sure on the kayak.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and he takes, you know, he's a teacher. He takes a lot of new people fishing all the time with taking those veterans out, and you know, obviously me and Wyatt here, another guy at the shop, he took us out for the first time, and it's like you can really jump in that kayak and get it down pretty quick. And you know, safety is obviously a big thing being in a kayak versus a boat. So Zach's real good on that. And so we're looking forward to a couple seminars this year from him on kayak safety, and then hopefully more into advanced actually fishing off a kayak as the year goes on. So
that's awesome. So you mentioned that you grew up in Orange County and all that stuff. When you were down there, when you grew up down there, what kind of fishing were you doing back then? Were you Clemente, Dana, you know? Yeah,
so when I was down in Orange County, I mean, the majority of it was when I was a kid, and it was bass fishing, primarily the park lakes, a little bit of trout and catfish fishing. And when I started out, it was anything I didn't know anything, you know, I was a little kid, and go out there with a worm or whatever else I could find and just try to catch fish. And then obviously as I got older and was able to, you know, drive or get a ride, as fishing on people's boats and going out and doing some inshore stuff, as well as a lot of bass fishing down at like Diamond Valley, Paris, all the San Diego lakes. And then starting to work at Longfin again, still doing the majority bass fishing. I went on some tuna trips and kind of got my feet wet in that stuff probably, you know, when I was 18, 19, 20. and really got a lot more into that, which was funny because then I ended up moving to Bakersfield, and now I do a lot more saltwater fishing now that I'm here. When I was down there right by the coast, I didn't do too much of it. So, but I still, bass fishing is my favorite. So, you know, I've got a bass boat. So, but I you know, do 4, 5, 6 saltwater trips a year as much as I can. Go out primarily tuna fishing with the bluefin fishing we've had the last 4 or 5 years. So.
Oh, for sure. You know, you kind of stole the question out of my mouth, but what's your bread and butter fishing? It seems to be bass fishing.
Yeah, it's freshwater bass. Nice. So, yeah, and largemouth primarily, but then moving, you know, a little further north, we have spotted bass and smallmouth bass, you know, from Pyramid and Castaic up. So that's spotted bass are an absolute blast if you haven't fished for them. They're aggressive and they bite in cold water, and it's just a whole different deal. Down south when it gets cold, it just starts to get slow, and largemouth get slow and lethargic. Where it's like seem like these spotted bass up here. That's like their time of year and time to shine. They just start getting aggressive, and it makes really a year-round fishery up here versus a slow season down south, and then the crazy spring, summer, fall bite. So. But
you
yeah,
know,
traveling too has kind of been a thing for me recently. I've done some muskie fishing and some different stuff, kind of traveling around the country. So that's been really cool.
So, actually, now that you brought that one up, you know, we've talked on the phone quite a bit and all that, and it seems like it's almost like you're in a different place every time we talk. I know the last time we talked, you were in Wisconsin doing some fishing too. So you get to basically travel a little bit and do some fishing along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to, anywhere we go traveling, you know, I try to make it into a fishing trip as much as possible. That's really all I want to do. I don't really want to go see the sights or anything. I want to go fishing. So my girlfriend's from Hawaii, so it makes it real easy. Her family's still there, and I end up back in Hawaii fishing quite a bit. And then, you know, we added St. Croix rods to the shop about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now, and when we first added them in, they had a West Coast fishing summit back in Wisconsin at the St. Croix Rods factory, and that that drug me back there because St. Croix wants to adjust and kind of come up with the West Coast line. They're kind of absent in a lot of our fishing out here on the West Coast, so they brought us back there to kind of ask us questions and feel us out for what they should bring into their lineup to be more adequate for the West Coast. So when I did that, I was looking forward to the smallmouth fishing in Wisconsin. Kind of ignored the muskie aspect of Wisconsin. It's a huge deal. And when I got there, you know, and seeing the tackle shops and kind of looking around the muskie thing, kind of got the muskie bug. So I've been trying to catch a big muskie ever since. I've caught quite a few small ones, but haven't got that big trophy one yet. So that's kind of a goal on my list.
So I was about to ask, any, not to put you on the spot, but any PVs that you want to share, or any funny stories bass fishing at all?
Oh, well, I mean, my big bass was 10.5 pounds out of Isabella way back in 2013.
Wow.
So I've been trying to get a big one on artificial bait. I actually caught that one on a live crawdad. So,
oh, really?
Which is, I mean, not illegal or anything, but it's not on an artificial bait. So that's kind of been a goal of mine, is get a 10-pounder on an artificial lure.
Huh.
So
interesting.
But other than that, I mean, I was trying the muskie thing, went muskie fishing quite a bit, and then this year we went back to Kentucky for another fishing show, and I brought my girlfriend along. This was her first time muskie fishing, and the guide wanted to fish mudsuckers, and so I mean, the mudsuckers are 14 inches, they're gigantic. It's probably a 2-pound fish.
Not small.
Yeah, not small at all, and that's the bait. So you can imagine those muskie are pretty aggressive and going after just gigantic meals. But obviously I want to catch my big muskie on a lure. So I kept fishing the lure all day, caught a small muskie, and you know, that mudsucker rod went off. My girlfriend told her, you know, that's yours. So the guide set her up. She set the hook on it and ended up catching a giant muskie, probably 10 inches longer than any muskie I've caught. And,
wow.
So anyway, she's been laughing at me for the last 6 months because she's got a giant muskie, and all I've got is these little babies. So
holding that one over your head a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. But then I tell her the live bait thing, you know, wasn't on an artificial lure, so it doesn't count. But anyway.
Oh man. Well, speaking of artificials, are you mainly fishing artificials nowadays? With, you know, when it comes to saltwater, freshwater, are you artificial?
In the freshwater, like bass fishing, pretty much all artificial. That's kind of just the way of bass fishing. There's not a lot of live bait fishing for largemouth bass or spotted bass, even smallmouth. It's just, you know, with the tournaments and everything, they're all artificial. That's kind of the way everyone goes. There's a few people that use live bait for them, but and using live bait for other things, you might catch them, as bycatch. But yeah, I'm primarily artificial. So, and that's Orange County and Los Angeles, Riverside County. You can't use shiners. I know in San Diego County you can. Here you can use shiners. We sell a lot of live shiners, which is something different than a lot of this stuff down south. But yeah, I'm an artificial guy.
Very cool. And, you just brought up, you can actually get your bait here at Cope's too.
Yeah, we sell live shiners. We actually just got a load this morning in. Some from small, like 1-inch little crappie minnows, which are baby shiners, all the way up to, your jumbo stuff. We get some the size of your hand sometimes. They're, larger than sometimes large sardines. It's kind of crazy. And they work great for stripers, really, primarily when they get in that big size. Obviously, the largemouth and stuff will grab them too, but striper and the aqueduct love those jumbo shiners. So
very cool. Well, as you could probably tell, I used to fish freshwater. Probably maybe 20 years ago or so when I was a little kid and all that. Really haven't done too much freshwater fishing since. I've primarily been saltwater fishing, but for you coming from a bass fisherman, for those of us who either, did it long ago or want to get back into it or have never done it at all, any pointers or tips to give us there?
Yeah, I think on the freshwater thing, it's super easy. I mean, almost all of us have a body of fresh water around, that's just real easy to access. Again, I grew up in Orange County fishing the park lakes. There's just so many of them down there, and there's bass in pretty much every one of them. I don't know of any that don't have bass that have any other kind of fish. So just get out there and, throw a plastic worm, throw a Senko, wacky rig Senko or something, and those fish can be really tough to get to bite, but they're there. So I think it's much more accessible than anything else. All you need is, a rod reel and plastic worms, really. All you need to get out there and start freshwater fishing. So, and same goes for the trout. There's a lot of those lakes down there. They're stocking trout regularly, probably once a month at least, if not every couple weeks. So same deal. You can get a mini jig out or some power bait or a night crawler or something and go catch trout and catfish. So, but yeah, I feel like it's real accessible and inexpensive too, because there's no boat or anything involved.
So really, you're just saying to just go out and do it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, and people get discouraged because it's tough. There's just, we've got a lot of fishing in California. I think people think we have less fish than most places. I think we have more people than most places, and that makes the fishing tougher. But I think we've got just as many fish as a lot of other places that the fishing is considered better. So, but yeah, it's just a matter of getting out there and making the effort to do it. So. Yeah,
and I think we've had this conversation before on the podcast, but when it comes to the fishing community, the industry nowadays, it's, in my opinion, it's a little bit more inclusive to where, you don't have, those cliques of people that really, you got to fish this way or you're just a loser or something like that. And it kind of starts with your shop too, where you've got a whole bunch of employees that I've met, over the past couple of years where they're pretty much like saying, hey, what can I help you with? What kind of fishing are you doing? Giving really thoughtful advice as to what, you have an interest in and showing interest themselves. I think the whole industry is more so like that nowadays than ever before, especially with the increase of, I guess, the popularity of fishing too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's just so many new fishermen and there's so many opportunities to grow our sport. And it's, the more people that are doing it, the more of a voice we have, especially out in the West Coast, California and whatnot. Not hating on everybody else for whatever kind of fishing they're doing is definitely a big part of it. But I think the watermen kind of, lifestyle has kind of brought a lot of that on. And I think, Salty Crew, there's a lot of fishermen that they're like, oh, Salty Crew, everyone wears Salty Crew, not just fishermen. It's like, well, that's a good thing. I think a lot of kids are at school and they see a largemouth bass on their buddy's t-shirt, at school, which typically when I was a kid that, down in Southern California, Los Angeles, Orange County, whatever, it would be a skateboarding logo instead of a picture of a largemouth bass or a striper or a tuna or something on their shirt. And I think, even that's exposure to fishing. So I think it's really good, and not hating on those people that are wearing that stuff, but instead like getting them fishing. It's not an old man sport anymore. It's a lifestyle, and there's kids doing it. Instead of doing other things, they could be doing skateboarding or whatever else.
That's a great point. Where Salty Crew, the brand, just to pick on them for a little bit. with the picture of, I mean, they've got a ton of fish in their logos, Dorado, tuna, yellowtail, whatever. Just exposing other people. Majority of those, I would say, are kids too that are, we're fairly young, even kids younger than us. I think that's actually a really great point where even just a picture of a fish on a t-shirt or a hat or whatever, I know you've got plenty of Salty Crew merch in the store too. I think that can all help the industry for sure, because it sparks the mind of those young guys, those grums.
Absolutely. And I think, we do a trout bin at a lot of our events, and we do, free, it's like a free kids fishing pond. We throw trout in there and let the kids come and catch their first fish. And, I think there's tons of fish that have never seen tons of kids that have never seen a trout in their life. Probably would, a lot of them would never see a trout live, maybe in the supermarket, but never alive if it weren't for those type of events. I think that's, huge in growing the sport, is just the exposure of it and letting them see it for the first time. It's a big deal, and it's important. So I know kind of hunting, you look at the numbers and everything, and they say, it's the amount of hunters in America is like declining significantly every year. And I think, we can do the opposite with fishing and really, get that exposure and grow it and get that voice. So it's huge in keeping stuff open and conserved instead of closed. So
Right. And we've talked at length, really there's a correct way to conserve and to protect resources and everything like that. It's interesting where, I'm not sure if you've had this experience before too, but for me, I have friends from high school, from grammar school reaching out to me now, them knowing that, I fish and that I'm in the industry and all that. They're reaching out to me now, trying to get me to go with them or take them fishing nowadays, where it's like, I would have never expected you to go fishing, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a weird kid in elementary, middle school, high school, whatever. I didn't do anything extracurricular as far as like sports or, dances or anything. I went fishing 24/7, like in any free time I had. And that's all I thought about while I was at school. I went to J. Sarah High School for a year down there in
nice.
South Orange County, and there was San Juan Creek was across the street, which you're not supposed to fish, but I fished it regularly. And I had like a 4-piece rod in my rod locker, and as soon as school bell rang, man, I'd go throw my backpack in there, grab my fishing rod, my fishing backpack out of locker, and
wow, I
was going fishing. So, which everyone looked at me like I'm crazy for having a fishing rod in my locker, but that's all I cared about at the time. So, with fishing, the nature of the sport that we love so much, the word that gets brought up often is inclusive. Fishing is very inclusive. You could be almost anyone and still go fishing. Would you agree with that? Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
I think the biggest part is just getting kids into it is huge. And there's nothing like a kid's face lighting up when they catch their first fish, and more so a dad's or parent's face when they see their kid catch their first fish. There's so many instances where you see these, parents taking their kids fishing and they're not catching anything, and the kids are like, this sucks, this is no fun. So the more people we can help, actually be successful in fishing, I think it's huge for us. So,
and thanks to the gear that like tackle shops like Copes that provides and all that, and kudos to the manufacturers. They're becoming super. I mean, some brands are basically bulletproof. Most brands are bulletproof, but also, the gear quality that's coming out nowadays, as opposed to not even 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, it's almost like night and day in terms of the technology and all that, and just how effective you can be and how successful you can be at fishing thanks to the gear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the electronics especially, man. It's getting pretty scary what they're throwing on boats, like track down a school of fish like nothing, and so it's getting pretty high tech. So yeah. I think what big thing we focus on too is the knowledge and the how to, and like how to use the gear, because you can go to Walmart and buy a $30 combo and go out there and fish and not catch anything because you don't know what you're doing when you're starting out, or you can come, go to your local tackle store and buy it, and let them help you rig it up and get you set and know the rigs, and you're going to be way more successful on the water. And so,
yeah, again,
getting people involved, that's huge. It's something the big box stores and Amazon and online will never be able to do. So
yeah, and at Copes, you guys have plenty of events throughout the year and the show and all that where, hell, you don't even have to be at an event. You can just come on down to the store and just have a conversation with the guys that you employ, and they'll basically, it's like an open book to where they'll tell you everything or anything about anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're busy. We try to keep a ton of staff on hand so we can walk you through, picking the perfect rod and reel, rigging it up, getting the right baits and everything specifically for where you're going. That's, go to Walmart, they can point you towards the fishing section where we'll get you the right stuff for exactly what you're doing. So
yeah. Is there anything that Copes doesn't do?
I feel like we get asked for things multiple times a day we don't have, but I feel like that's anywhere you go. There's just so much nowadays. It's impossible to have everything. So we try to do as much as we can, and if there's a want for it, and if you come ask us for it and someone else asks for it, there's chances are we're gonna have it here pretty quick. So we try to be super proactive and again just keep our foot on the gas and keep it rolling and keep it exciting. So
nice, man. Well, I know we got to get you basically out of here and setting up those brand new Hobies behind me, which I've got a couple hours, so I may just watch you. That's going to be interesting. But anyway, Seth, it's great to talk to you, man.
Yeah.
Really, really appreciate you coming on. And one more time, how do we get in touch with you? How do we follow you on Facebook? How do we shop at Copes?
Yeah, so tackleandrodshop.com is our website, so you can always jump on there and see. We have a calendar of events. All of our products obviously are on there. Come up to Bakersfield again, just make the trip. It's not that far. You can schedule it around that LA traffic to get up here.
Yeah.
So I know you make the trip plenty. It's not as bad as everyone thinks. And then obviously Facebook's huge for us. Jump on Facebook and follow us. We have a Friday fish report we post every single week. Talks about all the local water, what's going on, where the good fishing is, and then Instagram as well. And everything's under Copes Tackle. If you just type that in, it'll pop up to you.
Nice.
So, but yeah, definitely give us a follow on the social media and jump on the website or come see us in the shop.
Yeah, and following them on Facebook is certainly worth it because they've got a ton of great information. Seth, you just mentioned it. Plenty of fishing to go around, plenty of fish reports as well. It's unbelievable what you guys do on social media.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And then you can do the old-fashioned way, too. You can call us, So our number is 661-679-6351. And give us a shout, man. And if you're headed up this way, and, we'll let you know where the fishing's good at or what, if you're looking for live bait, that's a huge thing. Everyone coming up from LA, if you're going to Isabella or something, call us and check and make sure we got it in stock and see what we can do for you. So
absolutely. And like what we've said, a trip up to Copes, certainly worth the drive for sure. Seth, really appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Well, guys, that is it for this week. Don't forget to visit our website at ccacalifornia.org. Also, follow us on Facebook at Coastal Conservation Association of California, and follow us on Instagram at CCA California as well. That's about it for this week. Seth, can't thank you enough, man. Really appreciate it. And for those of you listening, we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you so much.